What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're back with Destiny 2 news and a few updates for the game. So, we're going to speak about bugs in the new Expunge mission this week, as well as Saint 14's regret, and there is some pretty cool dialogue as part of this story this week. Plus, we'll touch on a Mystery Tower memorial quest, and some updates regarding weapon buffs and nerfs, as well as a recent Bungie summit, and the likelihood of Old Chicago being a new destination in the upcoming expansion. Plus, we've got some other future content and more to talk about in the videos. So, guys, as always, I hope you enjoy this one, but now, let's get into it. And initially this week we did get the new Expunge mission Tartarus on Europa, and just a heads up to be aware of, if you kill the boss too quick at the end of the mission, it can actually bug out and the mission won't be able to end. And I believe this is basically happening if you do more than a third of damage per damage phase, as it stops the next wave of enemies spawning in, so just bear that in mind if you are having any issues with it. But following the quest for this week, Saint 14 responds to what the Elixni showed us last week about how they fear the Saint, and so he expresses his guilt in a mini cutscene this week, and so if you missed the dialogue, obviously spoiler alert if you want to see it in game, but this is what he had to say.
I have thought much on Mithrax's story. We do monstrous things to fight monsters. It seems simple then. When the city first formed, Titans were the walls. We did not think of our enemies when we fought. We thought only of protecting our people. Survival until the next day, no matter how. To be seen as a terror, a destroyer. To know children tremble in fear at my name and mourn what I have taken from them. This is not the Saint 14 I know. I can never forgive what the old houses did to us. But these are not the old houses. They are dead. What do we gain from more death? This lashing out against defenseless people, it is the act of a coward. Mithrax risked much to trust us. If his House of Light can forgive, perhaps we must try to see the fallen, Elixni, as they see themselves, or none of us will ever be anything but monsters. We must be more than the enemies of our enemies.
Pretty interesting response there from Saint 14, and it's safe to say that it's changed his tone a little bit. Ikora Rey also followed with an announcement stating that the Vanguard will bring those responsible for attacking the House of Light's new home to justice. And of course we know of Laxmi's coup and how that influenced residents of the last city, so this is bound to get pretty interesting. But something else curious that we'll see this season is a Heroes Memorial quest, and we don't know a lot about it, but as part of the seasonal cycle, we can see a quest name for the memorial. And this will be linked to both the last city, but also the Elixni story this season. And Dun6868 on Reddit shared some leaked text lines for the season that refer to this being a joint memorial. So, Heroes Memorial, speak with Mithrax to learn about the joint Elixni and human memorial in the tower. And so I'd love to hear any speculation from you guys about who the memorial could relate to down below, but we're certainly going to see something pretty cool in the tower for this quest. So give us your thoughts about it down below. In other news though, something some of you guys may be interested in knowing about, but Bungie did have another summit last week with a bunch of content creators, where Bungie show off and get feedback for upcoming content. It's something we've seen quite a few times, and of course could contribute to adjustments that we'll see for content in Season 15, and of course Witch Queen. Speaking of Witch Queen though, a few days back Bungie shared a new teaser for the expansion, and previously they had shared Witch Queen armor concepts, but they gave us another one in their most recent update where we see a more finished version of the Hunter right here. They have referred to this as Nova Gear previously, and this new image is called Nova Tease, and obviously this is a working name for the upcoming expansion. But players also note the curious location palette that we see behind the character, and so we can see a lot of greenery, not necessarily dissimilar to something like Venus, although possibly a more earthly palette, and players are speculating about Old Chicago coming into the game. And there are a lot of reasons why this is possible, or even likely, so Old Chicago concept arts are a thing that Bungie have had for some time, and so it's likely a location that Bungie have worked on to some extent historically. But also, as Paul Tassi pointed out, and players spoke about a lot before Beyond Light, Bungie shared the images where we could see the whiteboard, and on a list of locations, it did include Europa, which we got in the expansion, but also it was speculated that Old Chicago is on that list. And it's also curious because we've had additional in-game lore that's teased us about Old Chicago. On some of the Wild Hunt armor, one of the lines reads that we tracked the thing all the way down to the ruins of Old Chicago, down into the tombs. But we weren't hunting it was luring us. And it trapped us in the tombs below Old Chicago, picked off the other fire teams one by one. I've studied the enemies of the light, and I don't know what lured us to that ruin on Old Chicago and killed all of those guardians, but I know that it was hunting us. And so there it seems possible that Bungie are slowly introducing that location more into the lore, in preparation for it actually coming into the game. There are other possible Earth locations though. Historically, Bungie have worked on things like the Mumbai Push that we can see in the concept art right here. And I think it's safe to say versus any environments that we have in Destiny 2 right now. It certainly looks like Bungie were teasing not only that new armor, but also the location in the background. So based on whiteboard teasers, in-game lore, and the image that Bungie shared, if we had to guess, Old Chicago does look very possible, although of course we'll have to wait and see. Give us your thoughts about it down below, but an interesting element which could link to future destinations or content. And a few days ago, JB3 shared a video showing the Quarantine Sector, which is one of the old Dark Forest areas from Vanilla D2. It takes some pretty complex glitching to get into, but they found models of Guardians that Bungie typically use to test environments out, like on the Festering Core that we got access to early on IO. But also, one of the really interesting elements is that there are destructible tree branches. And these are the same ones that have been there since the start, but can now be broken. And so it does seem to be a test environment, and that functionality isn't something that we've typically seen on environments in Destiny 2. And so it could be because we're going back to the Dark Forest in EDZ for some reason, or maybe we'll see some of this functionality in Witch Queen, but it's totally a worthwhile mention, and I'll link JB3's full video down below. Some quick social roundups here. Heavy Oak did share that they received a Destiny 2 loot crate in the past few weeks that actually contains a model of Necrochasm. So some players wonder, could we potentially see Necrochasm brought into the game? And it does seem possible, although the loot crate itself was kind of themed around the moon on Destiny 2, and some of the other items were things that we saw from Shadowkeep, so could just be a nod back to that in Destiny 1, but give us your thoughts about it down below. Also, DMG said, when players were discussing traction and sensitivity options in the game, that they acknowledged some of the feedback around that, and they are aware of the desire for more sensitivity options. But he added, I can't make a promise on when anything could happen, but folks have a desire to add some options in the future. So we could see Bungie make some adjustments right there to the sensitivity settings that we get in the game. And finally, it's worth mentioning once again, Bungie did say that players have noticed they weren't receiving pinnacle rewards from the Expunge missions that were highlighted on the seasonal calendar, and the activity won't grant pinnacle rewards until the weekly challenge is added on June 15th. And so there will be a pinnacle challenge arriving for that mission from next week's reset moving forward. For today though guys, that is everything that we have to round up in the video, so give us your thoughts on any of the things we've spoken about, that new Witch Queen armor, or the potential location, as well as how the story is progressing this season. But if you've enjoyed the video, a rating down below really helps us out on the channel, and also if you want to keep up to date with Destiny 2, feel free to get subscribed and I will keep you posted. But otherwise, thanks as always for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.